From the Battery Street studios of KCBS Radio in San Francisco, I'm Matt Pitman, and this is Bay Current for Monday, November 8th. It was the crack of dawn. Actually, before the crack of dawn. My KCBS radio colleague, reporter Margie Shafer, coffee in hand, was there well before the sun came up. The workday was already in full swing for the graveyard crew at San Francisco's enormous 24/7 wholesale produce market and distribution center in the Bayview. And the work is a little more frantic these days, as the nationwide supply chain backlog is impacting just about every element of every supply and demand-based industry. That includes produce, fruits and veggies, and the timing makes matters even worse, with the holiday season almost here when fresh produce is at its highest demand. So I caught up with Margie after a couple more cups of coffee to find out what was happening and how prices and availability in our markets, big and small, is being affected here in the Bay. Margie, you were out on a pretty interesting story. I enjoyed hearing the report on the radio this morning. So tell me where you were and how the story got on your radar.
Okay, so this is something you will hear only on Bay Current because we can't tell the background for this on the radio.
That's why I love having you guys on.
Okay, so how the idea for this story evolved was our fellow reporter, Doug Sovereign, went to the farmer's market and couldn't get his strawberries following that big storm.
The horror. Cue the dramatic organ music and the swelling strings.
So we investigated.
Doug couldn't get his strawberries, so we sent Margie Shafer out to find out why.
But it actually it really ended up being a great story. I mean, not so much about, farmers market produce wasn't available, but just that the whole idea that the prices, that we better all brace ourselves because the prices for not only produce, but all groceries are expected to go up for the next year to year and a half.
You say go up, but really it's go up more.
Go up more, that's right.
This is maybe a tiny bit embarrassing, but the only fruit that I buy, produce really, that I buy on a regular basis are blueberries. I like them with my cereal, but also I have a small parrot, and that's like her favorite.
You have a parrot?
I do.
What's her name?
Her name is Speedy.
Speedy.
Yeah, and when I've recorded the intro for the podcast, she's been on the podcast before. You just haven't been able to hear it thanks to some deft editing tricks. But and so I've noticed, because I go to the Trader Joe's that's a couple blocks away from my apartment, and we're talking about $6 for what usually used to cost about $4.
Yeah,
so they're going up more.
And there's lots of reasons. It's multi-layered. Okay, so we went out there based on this storm 2 weeks ago. Well, that impacted your organic produce. Okay, so those storms that are those growers that are really close to the Bay Area. Though there was a spike. There was a spike in broccoli, cauliflower, leafy greens.
Organic only?
Organic.
Okay.
And organic actually, while it's growing exponentially, is I've learned all this just today, is a very small percentage, even though we talk about organic and every grocery store has an organic section, it's still a pretty small percentage of the overall produce market. But the multi-reasons why that the prices are going up. Okay, one, that I spoke with a guy who's with supermarketguru.com, Phil Lempert. And he's actually on the East Coast, but he was giving me basically three reasons, and this was confirmed by the people that I spoke with. So one is climate change. Okay, so maybe that's related to the storms, but different. So like the wildfires in California, they really impacted soy crops and corn crops. Floods in Brazil really impacting your coffee. So your coffee is going to be costing more. So climate change is having a direct impact on food prices. Your second is transportation. Absolutely huge. I had people talking about the truckers especially and how they can't even get truckers. And the interesting thing is the produce, they sort of follow the sun with where they're getting their produce from. Okay. So like they're starting in the Central Valley, and then they're going to be going further south, and then in a couple of months they'll be getting a lot of the produce from Arizona. Well, they're worried because they can't get those truckers from Arizona right now.
What's that?
I'm not sure. It might be tied to the labor shortages.
Yeah.
But there's also problems with parts. And one guy was telling me that he talks to these growers every day, and they're having problems supply chain, other supply chains that they can't get their tractors, they can't get their pallets, they can't get their fertilizer,
parts, things like that.
All that kind of stuff.
Because you hear those stories about home improvements or home repairs, trying to get a plumber out, trying to get someone to work on a storm drain in your backyard, months-long waits because of just, you name it, supply shortages, labor shortages, shortages.
Well, and the other interesting thing about produce, like when so we know, we've been told that these prices are going to be going up for the next 12 to 18 months. So, like, my mentality would be maybe, let's stockpile, right? It's fresh produce.
You can't do it.
You can't do it. Mm-mm. So we just have to kind of live with this.
Yeah. And I wonder what the price of gas, too, how that factors into the transportation component.
I'm sure. Huge. By the way, I got off on the 4th Street off-ramp, Bay Bridge, right, on 80 today. And all of the gas prices were above $5.
Yeah.
And one of them was $5.85 for premium.
Ooh.
Right when you get off. It's like at 4. I got to take a picture of it.
I think it's a Shell station.
Yes.
Yeah, I know it well. Yeah.
Off the charts.
Yeah.
That's astronomical. So, I think inflation's here, man.
It's definitely here. And I think that Democrats are feeling the pain from it because of the recent elections and some of those results. I know that the worries about the economy and inflation are driving a lot of, at least we're driving a lot of voter anxiety in the places where they had significant races. The governor races in New Jersey and Virginia come to mind. But here in the Bay Area, if you're looking at the increase in the price of produce, it makes me think of kind of two buckets of people who are going to feel it instantly and significantly and over the longest period of time. That is restaurant, small business owners.
Sure.
Right? And then families. I mean,
Absolutely.
If you've got more than a couple of kids and you want to feed them vegetables and fruits, which I think most everyone understands the value of that, it all of a sudden puts a greater burden on you. Did you speak with anyone who was able to speak to perhaps the impact on supply? Like, are people buying less? Or are they?
No, but I did get a really good tip, and that is if you try to buy seasonally. If you buy what's in season, you will pay less because it's all supply and demand. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, blueberries, what kind of crop is that?
I have no idea. I'm about as city boy as it gets, Margie. I'll be honest with you.
Well, right now, I know the persimmons, pomegranates for fruit are in right now. Those are kind of expensive fruits. And then your Thanksgiving stuff that's coming up right now, your sweet potatoes, your golden potatoes.
What about cranberries?
I don't know about cranberries, but green beans and Brussels sprouts, those are all coming in season, so the prices should be fair. We'll just say fair, as opposed to other things that you might want to buy out of season or that have to be brought in from further.
And it sounds like it's something they're settling into, just ready to deal with kind of long term. Farmers, distributors saying that this is what it's going to be moving forward.
Because what are people going to do? Are they not going to eat?
Right.
That would be horrible if people couldn't eat their fresh fruits and veg.
Yeah. Well, I think that would be the ultimate hope, is that it doesn't mean that people are eating less nutritious food or I don't know if safer food, but it really, at the end of I think it just really stinks that you can't go into the grocery store and buy the things that you're used to buying and want to buy because, and we're not talking about, we're not talking caviar and champagne here. We're talking fruits and vegetables. These are essentials for a lot of people. And especially, like I mentioned again, people with kids. I mean, the value of, the nutritional value there is significant in the development of young kids, obviously. And look, even as adults, like we don't want to be filling, I'd rather have my potatoes come, from the ground than a box, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
So,
and eating seasonally, like for example, the strawberries right now, they're they're not the big 2-inch red strawberries that we get in the summertime, right? They're like a little green, a little crunchy. Like they're not right. Yeah. But you can get some other things that are, if they're in season, and they taste better and they are cheaper. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm going to keep an eye out on that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the next thing I do is go kind of Google around and find, like a really simple sort of guide to what is seasonal.
Yeah.
When. And I think we'll put that in the episode notes so you guys listening can follow along with Margie and I, because we're all going to learn something new together.
I love it.
Really interesting stuff. More on this story at kcbsradio.com. Margie, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. 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 Than
Thanks again to my KCBS radio colleague, Margie Shafer. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Bay Current on the Odyssey app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And you can also catch each episode on YouTube on the KCBS Radio YouTube page. There's a link in the show notes. That's it for Bay Current today. Thanks for listening. I'm Matt Pitman, and we will chat with you again tomorrow.